Welcome to the MuseCast, where we squeeze every last drop of inspiration out of Sunday's sermon.
Did that go? Yeah, well, that went. Okay,
I think
good,
it went. Yeah, we're
okay,
good.
Yes.
I do feel badly for the people because I feel like they missed this perfect picture of you being submissive and humbling yourself before your MuseCast host partner, and the people missed it, Dan, and I feel bad for them.
You know,
it brought me great joy.
Yeah, you know, well, we might have to refer back to the humble cam at some point during the show.
Yeah.
So,
what I love about our show is we have our high five cam that we use sometimes. We have our nugget cam, and now we have a humble cam. So I'm just going to let y'all marinate with that and wonder whatever could it be. Because it was glorious.
Yeah. Well, people don't know how many cameras it takes to make this show. There's a lot of them.
We are big time. Yeah. We are big time. We got a lot going on here. And I just want to say Happy Muse Day. Happy Muse Day, Dan Kent. And you have just the easiest job ever this week. Following.
I mean, what a mess.
I'm sounding so unsympathetic, but I have all the sympathy in the world, and I think I'm just so giddy because it's not me. I'm so happy it's not me that has to follow up on Greg's Sunday sermon. So for those of you who need a little recap, we are in Shock and Awe, Revelation. We are in chapters 8 and 9. We've kind of been going at a pace, just kind of like a little pace. And then all of a sudden, whammo! Like Greg just flew us through and talked to us about a lot of things. Sealed by the Blood was the title of the sermon, and there's like 52 verses. I don't know that Greg decided to cover, and he covered a lot of territory. And I'm just going to let you guys know, sneak peek, Dan gets to follow it up this next Sunday. So.
That's right.
Y'all be praying for him. It's going to be amazing. It is. It's going to be good. I'm just so happy that it's not me.
Yeah. You're optimistic. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Hey, before I do my summary, can I ask you a question?
You can ask me a question.
Behind your left shoulder.
Okay.
You have the 4 pictures. Is that from Golden Girls?
Those are my ladies.
Oh,
those are the
cool.
Golden Girls. Can you see them?
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
There they are.
I'm kind of turning my monitor a little bit. Oh,
yep.
Can you go? I'll go up a little. Oh, see, there they are.
Oh, that's pretty cool. And you have a key to the city. A lot of people don't know that. People don't know that.
They call upon me.
Yep.
For all the things they call upon me. Hey, really quickly, he's Dan Kent. What are we doing? I'm Shawna Boren, and this is the MuseCast, and we will be diving deeper, maybe wrestling together. I don't know, Dan, where today's going to go.
I have no idea either.
We're gonna try to unpack Greg's sermon from Sunday.
Yeah.
I did already say that, so you are gonna have a summary. We are gonna have some conversations, and let me just say this. Because we got in anyway. Let me just say that if you have questions, if you're still working through, hey, same, and that's okay, and that's the beauty of learning to love together. And I was sharing with Dan how I was trying to listen through the sermon, give it another pass through, because there was just so much there, and so it is okay to not have it all figured out and all settled from listening one time, and sometimes you got to revisit stuff, and then you check out the MuseCast and we talk a little bit. Maybe you discuss it with other people. And so we're along for the journey today. We don't know what's going to happen. Something's going to happen.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and it is, some episodes definitely fall together cleaner than others because we get a couple questions in. The content of the sermon is organized, and that organization kind of leaves or implies certain potential nuggets that come kind of baked in. And then other times the sermon feels more like a madman has put it together, and like a crazy genius has put the sermon together, and that was definitely this one. Really good sermon called "Sealed by the Blood," and he basically is going to. He's trying to do a lot of stuff here.
So much.
He's trying to kind of take on more of the text because we got to start moving at a faster pace here. I think people are getting tired of some of the judgment scenes, especially since it's the same judgment from three different perspectives. So we are trying to take off some bigger chunks there, but at the same time, he's probably stuck with these two sort of insights there that neither one of them are like a full kind of sermon in and of themselves. And so what Greg decided to do is he's going to do two mini sermons and a Bible study. And the Bible study will cover a lot of these verses. And if you like, because I missed on Saturday because I had a birthday party to attend. And so I was not there for the practice run through. And so if I had known that Greg was going to do this, I would have sent an email saying, hey, tell me about this.
Oh, hey.
I don't know. I'm not sure if he could pull this off, and but he did. He really did pull it off. I mean, it's a lot of stuff, and within a given time window, and he pulled it off. And not only did he pull it off, but he pulled it off with great enthusiasm. He had charm and spice and energy, and it was great to see him up there stomping around and making his points. So the first mini sermon, he just kind of talks about what's going on in general here, kind of big picture in chapters 8 and 9, and during this seven trumpets scene that we have here, a couple cool things. I mean, Revelation will definitely hook back to the Old Testament and previously in the New Testament, and that's kind of what's going on here. In particular, John is echoing a lot of the things that are happening with these trumpets refer back to what happened with Israel when God liberated them from Egypt. And so you have, like, for instance, in the same way that there was this hail during the judgment of Egypt, well, now there's also hail and mixed with blood. And so each of those judgments from Egypt are reintroduced in Revelation, but they're kind of brought up a notch. And then also referring back to Isaiah 14, where we're told about the spirit Lucifer, who tried to ascend to this great height that was beyond what God had commissioned him for, and that caused him to fall. And during that fall, this spirit brought all sorts of chaos. And there's all sorts of allusions back to both what God did in Egypt and what happened with this fallen angel. And kind of the lesson, and this is sort of the first sermon, is what happens when we transgress the boundaries that God establishes for us. And so you see with the spirit transgressed the boundaries, and all chaos broke loose. Literally, all hell broke loose in God's creation. And then Greg kind of starts to pull that toward what is going on now, and he gives the same caveat that's worth repeating, that these images in Revelation are not like crystal ball peeks into the future. They are paradigms of what happens when boundaries get transgressed and when people disobey God. And so we see that, and now we look at some of these paradigms that are talked about how creation comes undone, and this is going to keep happening to the point where all of this damage is going to take place in the earth, in God's creation. And Greg just makes this argument that we're starting to see that, and what we are experiencing now fits really snugly into those paradigms that John talks about in Revelation. And so it's easy to look at what's going on now, Greg says, and say, hey, maybe this might be the end times. But either way, what he says is that we are supposed to live, whether it's the end times or not, as if it is. We are supposed to live with this expectation that Jesus could return any time. And so we are supposed to live as if Jesus is coming soon. And that was the first sermon. And at this point, he transitioned into this Bible study intermission, and where people went up and got popcorn and Slurpees and Reese's peanut butter cups. And so he did this Bible study where he sort of went verse by verse through chapters 8 and 9, through each of the trumpets. And I'm not going to go through all of that because there's no coherent theme. He's just taken responsibility for the text, saying these are some of the highlights of what's in here. Two highlights that I pulled out that I think, or actually just one main highlight that he pulled out. I already talked about how it refers back to Egypt and Isaiah. So the second kind of main point that he pulls out is he talks about this sealing that takes place where we are sealed by the Lamb's blood, and he just argues that sealing is important, and he refers to that after this Bible study intermission when we go into the second mini sermon, and this brings us to the end of his sermon. And so this is mini sermon number 2, and he focuses on this fact that we are sealed by the blood. Our foreheads are sealed, and what that means is that we are protected. This refers back to Exodus as well, where the Israelites were able to put this lamb's blood over their door, and then the destroyer would come by and pass over their door. And that's where we get the Passover from. And in a similar way, in a kind of a paradigmatic way, we are sealed by the lamb's blood, not just any old lamb's blood, but the lamb's blood in Jesus. And so the destroyer who is at work with these trumpets and all of this will pass over those who are sealed by the blood. Now, we're protected, we're sealed, the destroyer passes over us, but you have to be careful of how you think of that, because this isn't just a matter of, oh, then I don't have to worry about anything. No, we're still vulnerable. Our lives are not protected, and this is why we have martyrs. We have the martyrs even in the throne room, praying and calling out to God, and so we're protected, but our lives, our physical lives, are not. Well, okay, then you say, well, if our physical lives are not protected, what do we mean that we're protected? Well, somehow what we're protected in some spiritual sense. We're protected from this spiritual war. We're protected from getting lost into living outside of the kingdom. We're sealed in God's kingdom. God has this plan to dwell with us, and if we are sealed, that will happen. We will dwell with God. And so in the same way that we are protected by the blood like Israel was, and Israel was called out of Egypt, so too we are being called out of Egypt. We're being called out of this fallen Babylon, this fallen world, and so that's sort of kind of how this all looks. And then he kind of talks a little bit about, these are promises that God is making in the book of Revelation. And it's important because when you get a promise from God, that is a trustworthy promise, because when the Lord speaks, things happen. When he said, "Let there be light," there was light. Something that the Lord says, that means something unlike anything anybody else could say, because when the Lord speaks, reality adjusts accordingly. And so when the Lord says, "I consider you a beloved child, you are part of my family, you are part of the kingdom," that is so, even though it doesn't look like it here and now. But we have to live into that reality because the Lord has spoken it and we can trust it. And so it's when we surrender to Christ, when we surrender to those promises, that the identity that we've been given, and Greg shared a bunch of those verses, and you can also download it off of our website, that's real. All of those things. You are a child of God. You are an ambassador of the kingdom. You are someone for whom the Lord throws a party. All of those things are true about you, even when it doesn't seem that way. And so we can live into that reality now. And then he just finished with a couple cool verses. He talked about Philippians 1:6, where Paul tells us that he who began a good work in you will see it through to completion. In other words, we're not there yet, but we can trust because the Lord has spoken the promise that he will bring us to completion. And similar to that, he talked about 1 John 3, 1 through 3, where we're told that when we see Christ, we will know him, for we will be like him. And there's this idea that like is known by like. And as we continue to contemplate Christ, as we continue to seek God and pursue Christ likeness, we become transformed more and more in the image of Christ, and we see the Christ of our hope more and more and more. And so that is sort of how he ends it. He has this little activity where he says, start to dream about this. Start to dream about what has God made Dan or Shawna or Bill or Todd or Margot? What has God made them, each of us, to be? And start to dream of that. What is the Christ-like version of myself? And then start to move toward that. And I thought that was a good activity to wrap the whole thing up. But definitely a complicated sermon, and I hope that summary provides some structure to it. But that is what I got. I know I missed a bunch of stuff, but what did you think of the sermon, and how did I do?
Okay, I'm going to say, because this is an easier question, how did you do? I think you did great. You had a tall task before you, my friend, and there was a lot there to cover. And let me just say this. You and I joke often about Greg and his leeway to do some different things within a sermon. Whereas we feel a bit more like we need to kind of we're not controlled by any stretch of the mean. That's not what I'm saying, but we just kind of feel more like we're going to stick to certain parameters. And I will say, I'm so thankful that Greg is the one playing that role, honestly. And because I do feel like it is a gift that he has to take all of this and present it to us and have us, really reflect on it and see what we can get out of it. Like I there's just no way. It couldn't be me. And so, but I want to say to you, awesome job, really trying to distill that into something manageable for our MuseCast peeps, because we could be here. This could become a new little mini series, a MuseCast mini series, if we just had you to go in on. Because listen, you said it was like what, 2 sermons and a Bible study. I'm going to say it was 2 sermons, a Bible study, a novel, a dissertation, and a mini series as well, like for television. Like there was a lot there, and through it, I'm so thankful because I know. We know Greg, and we know his heart, and we know that he loves the people of Woodland Hills and the people who tune in. And I'm so thankful for his communication and the things that he teaches us. And so when something like this seems this big and monumental and a bit like can be overwhelming for me, I'm like, okay, Lord, what is it that I'm supposed to see in this? Because I fully believe that the scriptures are timeless and timely. And while we all have our feelings about the length of the overarching Revelation series, the fact of the matter is there is some stuff here that we feel like it's important for us to see. And so I am really thankful because I know there are a lot of people who maybe have had a history with Revelation that wasn't very helpful, and maybe looked at it more like a crystal ball type thing. And while we are encouraged to look forward to Christ's return, I feel like we're doing some other stuff with the text too, and I think that's really valuable. And so I am really trying to lean into, beyond my questions, beyond my needing to listen again and reflect more, like what is it that I sense God saying? Because I do believe God speaks, and I believe that he is leading us. And so that's the important thing, is like, what is it that we're learning? What is it that we're seeing? What is it that we are supposed to take in? And I think the main thing for me is, regardless of how close we are to the actual end times and whatever the heck that will actually look like, because there's a ton of debate about that. Our call is our call. And that is to live in love and to try to be a light chaser, to, harken back to your sermon from a few weeks ago, to try to, bring forth the kingdom light in the midst of the darkness that surrounds us, to try to be a difference in a world that seems to be increasingly chaotic for a variety of reasons. And he did mention the fact that we're in this global civilization and there's so many things that we have zero control over. So many things that Shawna say so does not matter. So where does my say so matter? And trying to lean into that. I don't know if I at all answered your question, Dan, or if I just brought up more stuff for you to be confused about. But that's where I am with this one.
I just think that that's always so wise to just always come back to, okay, where's my say so? Because, it's a big world and there are people who have a lot more say so in this world than you and I do. And they impact a lot more things. And it's really tempting to try to take on all of the problems in the world in our own hearts. And that doesn't work. And so, and especially when we're talking about these big things that are going on, a lot of these things that are happening, they're just so far beyond our say so. And but what we do have control over is who we are. And I am really glad that, it's tricky for us and Greg to talk about these big picture things that John is talking about that go beyond what any of us can really do anything about, but then also try to find, okay, but this is how it applies to us personally. And so it's always a challenge, and I thought Greg did a good job of that.
Amen to that.
There was something else I was going to say too, but I just think that that's always the right direction to go.
Well, and what I really appreciate, and trust me, I hear you, not you, Dan. I hear you, the people. There is a fear of like, ooh, are we like a doomsday church now? Are we like, look, please hear that that's not where we are. But we do believe God's speaking and showing some stuff. And we do believe there could be some correlation. Again, scripture, timeless and timely. I appreciate that we're not like trying to assign modern day things to what we're seeing in Revelation. Like, we're not trying to say, oh, this is the scorpion and that's the dragon. Like, we're not doing that, and we're not like putting dates on the calendar or any, like, so please hear that we are not cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but we do believe that in a time of turmoil and chaos, there is a way in which, as believers, as Jesus followers, that we can behave to try to bring a bit of sanity to the situation. And I think that's what we're looking at here. And unfortunately, when we say we're studying Revelation, we're not going to just say, just this chapter and this chapter. Like, if we're going to be people of integrity, we're going to go through it. And sometimes that's going to be a little tricky.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I'll say this too. I'll put my cards on the table. I think that no matter what year it is, 2025, 2031, 2040, 2050, every year that we go toward the right, it's going to look closer and closer to what Revelation is talking about. And
Absolutely.
That's even if we never had the Bible, it would do that, because even if there was no, even if the atheists were right and there's just matter and there's just, energy, well, there's a finite amount of that, and that those things are going to unravel. The unraveling that Revelation talks about. It's the same unraveling as we have in the laws of physics, and it's just that what Revelation does is it ties those things to this spiritual war. And so I'll just put my cards on the table and say that I think Greg is right that we're, the more we go toward the future, the more it's going to look like Revelation. I tend to think that we're not even close to the end yet, personally. And And that's probably my negativity, like just my cynicism. I just think it can always get worse. It can always get worse. And like you think this is bad. I can imagine hellish scenarios so much worse than this. And I've just seen, especially if you study history and you study
Yeah.
human psychology and you just see what the depths of evil that people are capable of. And there's definitely evil, but I just think that it could be always be worse. And that part
Yeah.
of that is my own cynicism. Part of that is just my gratitude for trying to
Yeah.
live into, hey, look at all the good stuff that we still have now.
Yeah.
And we definitely need to hold on to that as well. So that's, just in terms of like
Let
saying where we're at,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
think
Let
we,
me ask you this, Dan. Let me
okay.
ask you this. As since you were vulnerable to
Yeah.
reveal your more cynical side, what you talking about this weekend? Are you,
Mm.
are you
Yes.
is there
I am
something?
talking about marshmallows.
Oh,
So,
good.
yes, yes.
Perfect.
No, I
Perfect.
love marshmallows. So, no,
They're
I am
so
talking about
good.
hope. Hope.
Hmm.
Yep.
So see,
But,
Jesus at work, talking through the cynical man, and he's gonna
well,
bring us
but
some hope.
here's what I would say is that, and I would have to look at all of the nuances of the word cynicism, but like just a negative attitude toward what the potential is for this world.
Oh, good
Um,
Lord.
that's where hope is richest. That's where you get the
Yes.
most bang for your buck with hope. And so I don't view those as mutually exclusive at all. In,
Me
in
neither.
in fact, if I given my negative attitude toward human nature and the world, if I didn't have hope, I would just have despair.
Yeah.
And but since I do have hope, and I think hope is justified, and I want to talk about that this weekend, I have joy, which seems odd in the face of such a despairing world and such a despicable world.
But listen, I am, I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing you. Because I don't believe they're mutually exclusive, and I don't want to give away too much because I want people to look forward to what you have to say, and you're still marinating and all of that. But this
Mhm.
is what I will say: from the dawn of time, since humanity has been around, there have been grand opportunities of struggle and therefore grand opportunities for hope and for people to show up and show up differently and talk to any people group, talk to any minority group. Like there is always, yeah, the opportunity for depravity amongst humanity is grand, and so is the opportunity for humans to shine and to show
Yep.
up and do things in unexpected ways. And so while we are continuing to work through this book of the Bible, that's what I'm looking for. I'm
Mhm.
looking for just those reminders and those opportunities to show up differently and to be different, because we can ignore the chaos and we could be a church that says, ooh, like
Yeah.
Dan does. But that's not what we feel called to be. Like, we live in a real world. There's real opportunity there for the enemy to continue to have a stronghold, which means there's an even greater opportunity there for God's people to show up and show out. And so that's what I am leaning into throughout this series.
Yeah. I think that's good.
Okay.
You should do my sermon this weekend.
Oh, I think that people are ready to hear from you, Dan. It's been a few
Yeah.
weeks. I think
Yeah.
they need some Dan Kent.
All
They
right.
truly do. Oh, goodness. We did not get any particular questions, and I think people
No.
are still marinating
Yeah.
in this, and that's okay. That is absolutely okay. Please do. And so we don't have any of those types of responses. I just think it's important to sit with your questions, sit with the text, sit with the sermon, and just kind of see, like, hey, God, well, like, what are you speaking to me? What is he speaking to you? What is he speaking to, I think that's important to do and not just assume, whatever we would assume. So,
Yeah. Yep. That sounds good.
and
So, does that
so
mean
I think it's time for one of those special cams that we have.
woohoo?
Nugget
Yeah.
cam. It's nugget time. Look at us. Look
So,
at us.
do you have a nugget?
I
We're Neither one of us have a nugget. We're gonna end up doing this big
don't.
stare down.
We do.
Um, shoot, that was an opportunity to use the humble
Yeah.
can. Hello.
Hey down
I'm
there, Dan.
That's the humble cam.
Oh,
I
that
could
is.
go first. I have something I could do,
Okay.
but it's a quick one, so you have to act fast. You got to pull something
Okay.
up
I'm
together.
ready. I'm
All right,
ready.
you
Go
got to
ahead.
what I don't know what part, like over here in your brain is the best part of your brain, the cream of the brain, but you need to tap into that.
Yeah, it just kind of goes like this for me.
All right. Well, here we go.
Okay.
My nugget is simply a reminder that, we can't trust in the outcomes of this world. We can't
Hmm.
trust that things are going to go the way that we want them to go. And we can't trust that the country that we live in is going to flourish, or we can't trust any of that stuff. And so much of what we do and what we plan for our lives is based on these expectations for how the world is going to go. And so we start to expect certain outcomes, and we all get into this sort of outcome driven analysis of our lives. How's my 401k doing? How's my health goals going? And we get all these outcome type, goals, and we just get into that mindset. And I often remind myself that it's good to have goals and it's good to pursue those things, but sometimes you can do really good and make the right choices, and you can be a good person, and things are not going to come out the way that you want them to. And as you look at the crescendo of chaos, and you see how everything just unravels and comes undone, we can still be good and faithful servants in light of that,
Amen.
because God does not look at our outcomes. God looks at our heart. God looks at how we have oriented ourselves and what we have thrown ourselves into. And so I think of that to just encourage myself to continue to pursue Christ likeness, no matter how things are going, and to not always expect that, oh, by trying to be a better person, my life is just going to flower and I'm going to be on Oprah and I'm going to get a book deal and whatever. It's just, no, it's gonna it could, my life could peter out. And yet when I meet my Lord, he will say, well done, good and faithful servant. And it will have very little to do with how things turned out for me. It'll 100% have to do with how things turned out in my heart for God's kingdom. And I share that as an encouragement that encourages me. That is my
Yeah.
nugget.
That is good, Dan. Thank you for that nugget. My nugget is stolen. And I've stolen it from, well, scripture, but also a verse that Greg used toward the end of his sermon. And that's the good old Philippians 1:6. And paraphrasing, he who began a good work in you will be faithful to complete it. And that is such an encouragement, especially when we're talking about the chaos and the uncertainty and the what does this mean? And is the end near? And what's going on? And globally, things are chaotic and people are trying to ascend and usurp one another and all of that nonsense. Just know that we have been called into relationship with this amazing, beautiful creator who does have an end game. And we, again, get to partner with that creator. And what he started in us, he will finish. Now, that doesn't mean that we go through life unscathed. Absolutely not. Like, and man, there could be some pretty big, serious trauma things that happen. We don't know. But we know that that's not the end, and that he who did begin that work in us, he who called us, saved us, and loves us, will be faithful to complete that work. And so we just need to continue to be about our business of being his ambassadors and his kids that are trying to just push against all of the chaos and the insanity and all of the things that are not like him and his character. So just be encouraged by that, knowing that that the end game, there is victory, and we don't know what that's going to look like. We don't know when that's going to be, but we do know it's coming. And so, just being faithful in those daily moments, I think, is something that we can hold on to when there's so much that we don't know and so much that we have to try to figure out and discern. Like, what we can hold on to is the truth, and that's what I loved about the sealing aspect of Greg's sermon, is that we are protected by the truth of who we are in Christ. I am who I am because the I am says who I am. And you are who you are because of who Christ says you are. And that is the truth. And that is how we are protected. Doesn't mean that we go unscathed, but we do know that there's an end game and that there is victory. So be encouraged by that.
Yeah. Amen. I am encouraged
All right.
by that. Love that verse. I love that verse.
I know. It's so good. So good. All right, you guys. Well, thank you for being on this journey with us. And thank you for being here for our realness. Like, we don't always have stuff figured out. We're wrestling through stuff too. And you guys are just right there with us, and we so appreciate it. If you do have questions, if you do have comments, make sure you send them in. MuseCast@whchurch.org right there. And remember, we love to chat with you 4 p.m. every Tuesday on YouTube.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right.
Are we good?
Let me check my notes. Yep,
okay.
That's right.
Okay, we're good. We got it all. Awesome. You guys be praying for Dan. It's going to be great. Make sure you tune in Sunday and then circle back with us next week as we dig a little deeper into what Dan shares with us this weekend. Have a wonderful week, you guys. Take care.